Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to use Rails forms to create a new recipe from the browser. I hope you had a chance to read about the form for helper, since we're going to use that to build our form. Before we do that, let's revise how the new edit actions are handled. Okay, so in the recipes controller, we're going to have a new action, a create action, an edit action, and an update action. New will basically render a template, which will be new.html.erb under views and recipes directory. And then the submission of that form or that template will be handled by the create action, which we'll create here. Similarly, edit will render the edit form, which upon submission will be handled by the update action. So let's go ahead and create the new form. First, we need to see the route that we want. So rake routes. And we see that the new route for recipes is handled by the new recipe path. And then it goes to the URL that's /recipe/new. Okay. So at this point, start your server if you haven't done so already. And then let's go to our application. So the route that we want is /recipes/new. Okay, so it says the action new could not be found for recipes controller. So let's build that. So here, oops, wrong place. Define new. And then reload the page. The template is missing, so let's go ahead and build a template. So under views, recipes, right click here, and then a new file. We're going to call it new.html.erb. Now open that. Okay, so this is what we'll use for submission of our form. New form. So let me just test this out. Okay, there it is. So it's working. All right, so now let's go ahead and build the form. And before we do that, for a new form, we need an object that we want passed in here. Okay, a new recipes object. So we'll need to create that object, and we do that in the recipes controller. Under new, you can do something like this. A recipe.new. Okay, and we did something similar over here, but instead of new, for the index action, we grabbed all recipes. For the show action, we grabbed an individual recipe. So for the new, we're going to create a new recipe. Okay, and then again, I repeat, after we created the form and we submit the form, that is going to be handled, the submission is going to be handled by the create action. Okay, so let's go ahead and build the form at this time. So now we have an @recipe object. So right here, I'm gonna give it a title. Create a new recipe, and then as we've been doing for all the titles, we're going to put a line below it and then give it a form. So div class row, then I want it to show in the middle and I want to give it some formatting, so I'll give it a well class, and then call mid. I want it to span, let's say, 8 columns. And then since I want it to start in the middle, I want to offset the first. So call mid offset 2. Okay, let's see if that did anything. Okay, there's our form. There's the well. Now, we're going to add styling to this later on to our custom SCSS file, but right now, let's just build the form. All right, so the way to build Rails form, a model backed form, you get some helper methods. So it's actually very simple. So form for, and then the object which is available to us, which is the recipe instance variable that we created. So form for recipe, do f, and then we have f.label. We have the name of the recipe, which is one of our columns. So we're gonna give it a text field. Then we have summary. Whoops, incorrectly done there. Summary. And we want this to be a text field also. And then there's description. And now here we don't want text field, we want text area. And we'll see why very soon. Text area gives you a larger box to input text. So description. And then we want to handle the submission of these input parameters, right? So let's do that. Now we want create recipe. Then we want to give it a class, a button, success. All right, let's see what that looks like. Oh, seem to have a bit of a problem here. Oh, I don't think okay, I didn't end my form. There you go. It's missing the end tag for my form for. So let's try that again. Okay, they're there. The formatting looks really off, but we'll fix that in a second. But the three fields are showing up. Okay, see here the difference between the text field versus the text area. Okay. So let's go ahead and add the formatting. Okay, and remember we're using the custom CSS file, where we're storing all our formatting. So under assets, style sheets, custom CSS, SCSS. Okay, now we want to first, if I look at it, I want to change the color of the well. So let's do that. I think we gave it a style of well. Yep, div class well. So let's add that. Background color. And ed. Okay, like that color a little better. Make some room here. All right, input, text area, select, dot uneditable input, for all of these, I want border to be 1 pixel, solid, and then the color I want is D2, D2, D2. To enter in the color, you have to use the hash symbol there. Now I want border radius to be 5 pixel. So I get like a curved edge on the box. Width, want it to span 100%. And then margin bottom, I want 15 pixels. Okay. Also for inputs, height, auto, and colon important. Okay, let's see. I think that should be enough. Let's try this out. Okay, we seem to be missing something still, so let's figure that out. So let's go ahead and see what's still wrong here. Oh, I didn't save this custom CSS as CSS file. So let me hit save. Let's try that again. Okay, good, much better. So now we have a name, summary, description. Now for the description, I want this text area to be bigger. I want it to span a few more rows. So let's go ahead and fix that. So I'll go to my new template or new form for description, text area, and then I want it rows 10. Okay, perfect. Much better. All right, so now we have the new form, and now we want to handle the submission of the form. So every time we go to, let's say, recipes, and then recipes. So we're getting the form. Okay, great. Now what happens when I create recipe? If I click on the submit button, the action create could not be found, right? So this is what we had discussed earlier, that the submission of the form will be handled by the create action in our recipes controller, right? So let's go ahead and handle that right now. If I go back to recipes controller, under new, define create. Now we have to check what's being passed in to the create action, right? So when we submit the new form, what is being passed in? And how do we check that? We put in binding pry over here, and then we'll go to this terminal, and this is where it's going to show our parameters. So let's go back here and then type in recipes new, and then name, hello, new recipe. This is a test recipe. Description, this is a test recipe, and we'll check params in the create action. Okay, remember it's basically passed, and whatever we pass in will be passed in using in a params hash. Sure. So let's hit create recipe. Now notice it's stalled because that's binding pry in action. So we are in the pry right here. So let's check what we have in params. Okay, so here we see the recipe, see the name, hello new recipe, summary, this is a test recipe, and description. All of them are coming in correctly. Okay, and since this is a new recipe, we still don't have an ID or anything else yet. Now, notice our action is create and then controller recipes. So we're getting all the information we need to handle the submission. So let's go ahead and do that. To exit out of pry, you basically do Control D, and that will, if you go back to your web page, you'll see that now you have you're getting the error because it's no longer paused. All right, so let's go ahead and build a recipe. Recipe is recipe.new. Now, here is something that we need to discuss right now, and that is strong parameters. Okay, what are strong parameters? Rails 4 basically forces you to whitelist what values your application can accept from the params hash. So if in this case, the name, summary, and description are passed in, you want to process these fields that are submitted, you have to list them explicitly as values that your application can accept and process. Okay, so the usual way to do that is to define a private method over here, which is only available to this class, and in this case, which is the recipes controller class, and then use that method to permit the fields which we need, which are in this case name, summary, and description. So let's do that real quick.